This is Richie, aka Ruins, becoming the first player to use the revolutionary rolling technique in a live Classic Tetris World Championships event at the 2021 Southern Qualifier. Last summer, Una and I drove 10 hours to attend the tournament in Greenville, South Carolina, so we could try competing ourselves. It was the first official Classic Tetris event in 2 years due to the pandemic, and the level of competition had improved dramatically. So how did rolling do in its debut? How did we do in our attempts to compete? And who ultimately won? Well, let's rewind to the beginning. Una and I are just about to get into South Carolina for the Southeastern Qualifier. It was a bit of a rough road down. We had to completely alter our route at the last minute to try and avoid the hurricane as much as possible, but we managed to finally make it. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Eat really good food and also be a part of the Tetris for the first time.
Yeah, the last time we went to a competition in 2019, Una didn't play NES Tetris, but now she does. So it's going to be exciting for both of us to get to put up qualifying scores tomorrow. We're going to be heading into a minor league baseball game with Chris Bidwell. It's been years since I've gone to a baseball game in person. We're going to be seeing some other people from the community. Chris Bidwell had organized the meetup here as a pre-party for people in the community arriving a day ahead of time. We found our seats next to him and his family, along with other Tetris players Storm and Norman, Dave Smith Says, Spirit Vet, Marfrem, and one of the founders of the Classic Tetris World Championships himself, Adam Cornelius. Typically, the Tetris Qualifier pre-parties were at bars, but given how people's ages in the community had skewed younger and younger, Chris Bidwell had chosen a minor league baseball game so people under 21 could actually attend. And we had a great time, even though for most of the game the action on the field wasn't as much of the focus, and instead we were talking about what we thought the Tetris Qualifier would be like, or watching the Classic Tetris Monthly Masters event on our phones, which had a bracket playing live that evening. As a special treat at the end, it was fireworks night at the stadium, and Chris Bidwell made us all laugh when the announcer counted down the fireworks 3, 2, 1, and then he yelled Tetris. It was an awesome way to break the ice before the craziness that would happen the following day. Early next morning, Una and I headed over to the convention center an hour early to get special guest passes, since the convention organizers had actually included me in the official event program because of my YouTube channel, which was kind of surreal. So I was able to get a special guest pass, and Una got a media pass.
Yay!
We then went into the main hall where the vendors were getting set up to find the tournament location, which we figured should be pretty easy, as the qualifier was being run as part of Hal Hawkins' Retro World Series event, using dozens of identical CRTs he had bought at a school auction. Sure enough, we found them all lined up on tables in the back, and for extra confirmation, they were accompanied by a very official looking sign. These are the 8 CRTs we're going to be for the CTWC qualifier. The lines will be right there. Come around, player games, and that's the main stage over there that at least one of the matches will always be able to be broadcast on when it's time for the brackets. What are you looking forward to most about this event?
I'm looking forward to competing in the CTWC.
If you haven't been to many live NES Tetris events before, it is not normal to have such large and uniformly sized screens to play on. Una and I started turning them on to test them, and the image quality was great, although at first I could not figure out how to adjust the volume. Oh my gosh, these are so loud. I don't know how to turn them down. What do you think?
I don't like it. It's distracting.
Oh no, come on, give it a little long bar. Yes. Soon, Chris Bidwell, who'd be overseeing the tournament for Hal Hawkins, would arrive. This is Chris Bidwell's CTWC tournament in a box.
I got 2 PDMs here. They're heavy. If you ever watched wrestling in the 90s, they'd always take these out of the Spanish announce table and smack people with them. Super secret later on. These are PAL NESs. Maybe we'll have some PAL action later this afternoon. But
that'd be fantastic.
yeah, for right now.
And this is the box of everything else, the controllers, the carts.
Gotta clean your carts.
Yeah.
The special sauce, because I know how everybody's good is. There's 10 Game Genies in here. You remember the code, because I don't. I always forget the word.
All of them will know it.
All of them will know it, yeah.
Chris Bidwell went straight to work sourcing all the parts that would be required for a second live stream setup in addition to the main stage. So this score was particularly hard to find. What is so important about this?
We want to stream, dude. We haven't been live in 2 years, so they have a streaming setup for the finals over there. But we want some qualifiers streamed, so we got a splitter now, and we have a 2 because Hal's the man. So we're going to get this quick and dirty streaming setup using a crappy Wi-Fi hotspot. It might be the most potato internet connection ever, but we're gonna be on today live, chatting to everybody.
Adam Cornelius, the World Championships co-founder, was next to arrive. In addition to the tournament winner receiving a free entry into the World Championships, the 2 finalists would also get a gold and silver Retro World Series medal. As Una kept practicing on 19 starts, she did something unexpected. New 19 PB! Keep going! She ended up smashing her level 19 start personal best, getting 148,000 points. As I sat down to practice, more players started to arrive, including the first Noel, who brought along his claim to fame. Noel is the famous Guitar Hero controller Tetris player.
You got me. Hello, man. How you doing?
What is your PB using this controller?
I have a max out.
You have a max out
I have a
now.
max out with this thing.
That is incredible.
Is he actually playing with a Guitar Hero controller?
He can.
He can't?
Yeah, he has a max out with it. What is your name?
My name's Chris. I go by Moonlight. I'm actually not the classic Tetris player. I'm a modern Tetris player. So I play like Tetris Effect, Queen of Tetris.
Awesome.
So sadly, like when I saw that it's just classic Tetris, I'm like, I wish I was good at it. Like, you know, like Jonas and Green Tea.
Yeah.
But so I'm probably gonna be like spectating, but definitely like if there was a modern Tetris tournament, definitely would want to check it out. I've seen your stuff too.
Oh, thanks. Being an absolute trooper, Chris sat down to give NES Tetris a try anyways. You gotta talk.
It definitely feels a lot different when you're playing classic Tetris compared to modern. So.
Yeah, for sure. Meanwhile, Phantom had arrived and was on pace to get the first max out of the day with over 800,000 on level 26, but he hung a T-piece and ended up topping out. Shortly afterwards, Noel had a run going that was even closer to a max out with just 2 Tetrises to go at the beginning of level 28. Come on, give him the T.
Oh, yes. That's it.
Oh, not yet.
I need a square. I literally need a square.
Then Sodium Overdose arrived, one of the strongest tappers in the game who had brought along a middle school yearbook to place his controller on. He soon got deep into the 3rd run of the day that was close to a max out, and was just 1 Tetris away on level 28.
Now we just topped out for the VM. Why would you top out for the...
For the memes. Nice.
Okay, just top out.
Yeah! Level 30? Level 30?
No, wait.
Oh! First max of the day! Oh, gotta post on the scores. Beast and Shen arrived to help Chris Bidwell run the live stream, and the players and judges all got in place at stations. Qualifying has started!
Let's go! Tetris time! Yeah!
Players will be sorted first by how many max outs they got, and next by their highest non-max score. The top 12 will be seeded into a head-to-head bracket to determine the tournament winner. So out of the confirmed online list of everybody who's attending, I rank 13th out of all the top PBs, and there's 12 spots in the bracket. So I'll put up some games for a while, but if it's clear that like there's 12 800Ks, I probably won't have a chance. I'll just enjoy the rest of the event, but I'll at least try at the beginning. The qualifiers were going to run for 5 hours, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And while waiting in line, I watched as Ruins, in his first in-person tournament appearance, became the first player to show off live the brand new rolling technique that used multiple fingers tapping the back of the controller into the finger on the front to achieve much faster speeds than traditional methods. While it was mesmerizing to watch, he was far from the only player with an interesting grip, as next to him, Blank was using a bare foot as an anchor for the controller. Storm and Norman had brought an extra chair and a backgammon board to stabilize his hands at the position and height he was most comfortable with. Marfram, who had previously always played on a keyboard, was 1 day into figuring out a grip on an NES controller. If you were holding your controller the traditional way with just 2 thumbs, you were basically in the minority. It's all starting to come back now. The feeling of waiting in line at CTWC, or like the stress of trying to get a good score. Like, been qualifying online for 2 years is such a different vibe because you can just start over immediately if you get a bad score. Here, it almost feels like playing a competition again because you just want to play out every single game, no matter how you're doing. As I thought, there's a couple surprise people here. Chad's already here. Chad Muse, the veteran. So that's probably going to push me out of contention, but I'm still going to try and play and see if I can get a PB for qualifying. So like a mid 600Ks, I'd be happy with that. How's it feeling so far? Is it like CTWC 2019 vibes again?
That adrenaline kick when you're running things and things are actually working and it feels good. You're just waiting for something to break, but until then, when we're struggling finding our password for the CTWC stream, we'll come up another long part and figure that out, but we're not going to stream until like 1 o'clock-ish.
Makes sense.
So I'm loving it. And look at our line, it's already starting to go all the way down the same.
Yeah. Una and I started putting up scores, and Una unfortunately started out with a few early top outs, while I got an early score of 578,000. I knew it would be nowhere near enough to qualify, but it at least put me in the bracket for the time being. Still on the board for now. First max of the day?
Yep.
Who did it?
Coffee.
Coffee was one of those players a bit under the radar in the scene, as he had not played in the online World Championships the previous year because he wanted to wait for the in-person competitions to return. But he was definitely one of the strongest players in the tournament, having just weeks prior gotten one Tetris off a 1.4 million score before the level 29 kill screen. Good enough for 6th place in the world leaderboard at the time, so it was definitely fitting that he got the first max out of the qualifiers. Sodium looked poised to get his second max out of the day and the second max out of the qualifiers with over 750,000 on level 25, but he ran into a nasty drought on level 28.
Nothing! Oh, man.
It's a little nerve-wracking, especially when all the greater players are coming out, but hopefully I can get a good score up there.
What's your impression of everybody so far?
Everyone's really good.
Una had improved her qualifying score a bit to 320,000, but she was still not yet above the top 12 cutoff.
How are you feeling?
Worried. Not good.
Right as I was recording Una, I looked up and saw that Puppy Ball was on max out pace. He had achieved a max out before, but had never gotten one on video. At 229 lines, he had just one line to go before the level 29 kill screen and needed one Tetris for the max out.
Come on, there it is, there it is. That was awesome.
Coffee and Colin were now firmly in place as the top 2 seeds, with Coffee in first because he had the higher non-max score. And the third max out of the qualifying period proved to be incredibly elusive. Blank came close with over 900,000 on level 28, but had the board spiral out of control. Right after Blank and Coffee's one-offs, Sodium had another game where he came so close on level 28 but was one Tetris short when the level 29 kill screen did him in.
Oh no. Dang. So close, Sodium.
As it turns out, another player, Superminds, would get the third max out, right before I turned on my camera to record.
Nice job, a max. Let's go. Congratulations.
Coffee almost got his second max out of the day right afterwards, but with just one Tetris to go, he hung a line piece on level 28 with the Tetris well set up.
Oh, 220. 220 difference between the two top.
Oh my gosh, so close.
Supermind's highest non-max score was 200 points higher than Coffee's, meaning he was still the #1 seed. Meanwhile, even though I was able to play much better on level 19 than I had been at previous events, I kept struggling with low transition scores due to messy 18 games and hadn't yet improved my score.
Somehow I am still miraculously in the brackets, but I don't expect it to last long. Still trying for a 600K. It's nice, there's enough stations that the line really isn't too long. It's only about a couple minute wait. You can watch games as you wait.
One of the coolest things about the event was getting to see players I had never seen before, such as this very young competitor that was catching everyone's attention.
It's a third Artiga brother.
The third Artiaga brother? When did you first get into NES Tetris?
About a month or two ago.
A month or two ago. Wow, and it looks like you already know what you're doing.
My PB is actually 214,000.
214,000, that's awesome. What was the video that you originally found NES Tetris through?
I'm pretty sure it was the 2018 World Championship. Then I just kind of followed you for a long time, learned what I'm doing.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. Is this your first tournament you've been to?
It is my first, actually. I heard it's in South Carolina. I just had to go, and I'm really happy to be here. I've gotten like a 460, but I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah, it's super fun just to be able to play and be next to everybody else.
Oh yeah, of course.
See Max Outs next to you. It's like, oh shit.
One of the big questions was when Ruins the roller would get a max out, as he had by far the fastest piece movement of anyone there. And soon enough, that question would be answered.
There it is, first roller max.
Ruins got the fourth max out of the day, and even showed off a little bit the ability for him to move pieces around past level 29 far faster than any Hyper Tapper could.
Nice job. The battle for the number 1 seed was suddenly turned on its head when Sodium Overdose got 2 max outs in rapid succession off camera, vaulting himself to the top spot. The max outers were all pretty much safely in the bracket now and took a break to eat lunch. But for the rest of us that couldn't reliably max out, there was no time to rest. I finally managed to break 600,000 and was gunning for more, but in a moment of panic, I tried to put a line piece 7 rows high on the left, which was impossible with normal DAS. That one mistake effectively ended the game.
Shoot. That's a qualifying PB at least.
So close to getting back in the bracket, needed a few more Tetrises on the final levels, just couldn't do it. But it's the best qualifying score I've ever gotten in person, so I'll take it for now. I watched as Storm and Norman slowly gutted out a low 700,000 into level 27, a score that could make the difference between qualifying and missing the cut. The bubble's up to 724,000. Actually, if that's you, right?
Yeah, that's me.
All right, you're on the bubble.
We're duking it out right now.
I know. Well, I'll be happy to see you play it if you end up being the final seed.
I'll be happy to see you play if you make it, so.
All right, yeah.
I'm happy just to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Refusing to take any shortcuts, Una had been doing level 18 starts all day, just like the pros. But things just hadn't been panning out for her to get high scores. She managed to increase her qualifying score to 349,000 on a game on the live stream, but with the cutoff now well above her personal best, she decided to call it there and rest her legs from standing all day in line. It was now 3 p.m. and with just an hour left in qualifying, the pressure was on for everyone to get in their final scores. Sodium got a max before qualifying even started. He has 3 so far, and he is still playing. He really wants that number 1 seed. All right, this has gotten significantly tougher to get in. I don't think I'm gonna make it at this point. I have like 1 or 2 games left. In what seems likely to be my final game, again I got into a hole with a low transition pace. Unfortunately, the end of this game wasn't recorded, but I remember giving it my all past the transition, and it ended up being my best game of the day, but it still wasn't enough. 640, 200, at level 28, I'll take it. Shit, I needed to basically go perfect those last couple levels to get in, but I mean, still beat my score at the last minute, so I mean, if I'm improving throughout the day, I'll take it. Waiting in line, there's 1 minute left until they cut us off. Yeah, there's too many people still on level 18.
That's time. It's 4 o'clock. We can finish these games, but that's it.
All right, that's the end. With the cutoff announced, only the people still playing on stations could now affect the qualifying scores. One by one as players topped out, we got closer and closer to the final rankings.
See, so many max outs ahead of everybody else. This game doesn't even make a difference, right?
No, he's got. Well, I guess one person did hit 250.
It's about making a statement, I guess.
Coffee was the person who had recently gotten a second max to move up to the number 2 seed, which was actually critically important, as Coffee had a higher non-max score than Sodium and both of them were still playing, meaning there was still a chance Coffee could get the number 1 seed if he maxed out his final game. However, Sodium was in the driver's seat and could guarantee getting the number 1 seed if he just maxed out his own final game or if Coffee topped out. After getting to 900,000 and seemingly having it in the bag, Sodium got stuck in a dig at the worst possible time.
That's not gonna happen. He's too high up to burn down before kill screen. Unless. Oh.
Now that Sodium had topped out, it all came down to Coffee, the last person still playing. If he could just max out this game, the number 1 seed was his. After grinding his way through the entirety of post-transition, Coffee was 1 Tetris away on level 28.
Waiting. What? He's too late. Money time. Come on.
At the last possible moment, Coffee had sniped the number 1 seed from Sodium. And in a display of great sportsmanship, Sodium congratulated Coffee and pointed out a particular move he was impressed by.
Coffee, you're not 25 with the Z adjustment to the right. I don't know, it was nasty.
Number 1 seed, Mr. Coffee.
So in the final rankings, I finished 14th, with a score that was at least within my hopes and expectations. Funnily enough, the person right above me on the bubble was Cobalt, who was at his first live event and was a fairly unknown player at the time, but has since gone on to become a fellow NES Tetris YouTuber, making many videos on new world records and noteworthy stories within the community over the past several months. Now that the rankings were set, it was time to get ready for the bracket playoffs, snazzily announced by this
now upgraded Retro World Series sign. Setting up all the Game Genies. Gotta be prepared for max outs. We didn't have access to the main stage yet because a Smash Bros tournament was still going on, and because we were short on time, 4 matches needed to be played simultaneously on all the stations, with people who didn't make the bracket getting assigned as judges to oversee the matches. I was originally set to be one of the judges, but at the last minute, I was asked to co-commentate the live broadcast with Chris Bidwell, which was super cool as it was the first live official CTWC event I'd ever gotten to commentate. Because only one of the 4 matches could be broadcast at once, Una filmed some clips of the matches that happened off stream. The first round was between the bottom 8 seeds to determine who would play the top 4 seeds in the next round. All matches were best of 3, highest score wins. First up at the bottom was Noel the Guitar Hero player versus Chad Muse, a longtime veteran of the scene and one of the best of the old school DAS players, having won several regional qualifiers in the past. In this game, Noel was stuck in a dig and hung a few pieces to top out with 770,000 on level 28, and Chad stormed his way to over 900,000 into the level 29 kill screen, an incredibly strong competition score with DAS. Chad ended up sweeping the set 2 games to none. Next up was Blank versus Draco. Blank was the heavy favorite, and Draco put up a fight, nearly taking a game deep past the transition, but Blank ultimately swept the match. Hideri versus Colin, aka Puppyball, was another competitive match, with Hideri dropping a game after having to sacrifice his entire board for a Tetris down the center, but he recovered to win the set 2 games to 1. And finally, Beast and Shen versus Phantom was the broadcast and match that I got to commentate. And as is tradition with live events, we immediately encountered technical issues on the first game, with Shen's game capture freezing, but it ended up not mattering as Phantom topped out early. But it looks like he's, oh no, that's a really tough square hang for Phantom. I think that's probably gonna be it. Shen and Phantom were very close for the entirety of game 2 until Shen got in a dig at level 22. This is right around the height where a DAS player would not want to get any higher.
He is going to play it safe.
Oh no!
Oh no, he's going to need some magic here.
6 high right with the long bar, needed a perfect long bar DAS load.
Flat. Wow!
Needs an L, gets it, oh no, the pole vault doesn't work.
Not over just quite yet, he's going to need a 607.
He's got it.
He's got it, that's it. D-sider here.
Shen had a significant lead for most of game 3, but Phantom quickly whittled it down after the transition, and with a high stack, Shen blocked his well right as the line piece came.
And he's going to be in trouble halfway up the board.
This is not survivable for a DAS player 99
Oh no,
times
he's going to top out of 563!
Tried to nail the quick tap there, but couldn't get it. Only 10,000 points to go for Phantom. There it is.
There it is!
GG's to Phantom.
What a comeback.
Phantom's reward for making it past the first round was facing the #1 seed Coffee, but unfortunately the technical problems continued. Right before the transition in game 1, Phantom's screen glitched out due to the sensitive Game Genie getting slightly misaligned with the cartridge, and the game ended up having to be replayed. Phantom topped out with 690,000 in the redo, and Coffee seemingly had an easy chase down, needing only a Tetris and change to win, but ran into a high double long bar dependency on level 25 that he just barely got out of. On level 27, he had a dangerous misdrop with just a few thousand points to go, but managed to clutch out the final few lines for the victory. In game 2, both players were incredibly tight in score all the way until right before the kill screen, and Phantom's screen glitched out right before he topped out with 951,000, and Coffee got one final Tetris into the kill screen to finish just barely in the lead with 955,000. The judge wasn't sure what to do.
Oh no!
Some TV issues. We're waiting on an official judge ruling on what to do. I think from what I saw, it happened right before 29. I don't know if a Tetris was at stake. The only recordings that exist are on people's phones, basically. Looking closely at the replay from Una's footage, Phantom's screen had indeed glitched out at 229 lines, meaning he could have had the chance to set up one more Tetris for the victory before getting distracted by the glitch.
They had a screen malfunction almost at the end of the game. They're going to move over here.
Oh, so that game is being replayed.
They're replaying it. It was the right call and makes you reconsider the use of Game Genies, but whatever. We are turned our backs from them watching the screen instead of, turning around watching the television. But that's broadcasting.
Yeah, I'll take a little behind the scenes video of the experience. I'll post later.
How's it going?
Now that they were on a stream with stable setups, Phantom and Coffee could complete the rest of their match without issue. On level 28, Phantom was maintaining a 1.5 Tetris lead and could likely seal the victory with another Tetris, while Coffee needed to go perfect. Coffee desperately needs a long bar.
Oh my god, what is this drought? This is so bad. Not at this level.
Oh no! Oh! Blocks the well right as the longbar comes! And Pham takes it! Phantom had forced a decider against the #1 seed. In Game 3, Phantom got behind early, digging out of a messy board, and Coffee had amassed a 200,000 point lead by the transition. Knowing he had to be efficient, Phantom went aggressive, and got droughted to put himself in a high dig.
He is just fighting for his life. I mean,
Needs a longbar now.
Yeah.
And he gets it!
Is that going to be it?
That's gonna be it, and Coffee advances.
What a war.
Phantom had one of the best sets of the day, but ultimately, Coffee would go on to the semis. The match between Superminds and Hidari resulted in a straightforward sweep, with Superminds heading to the semis. But the veteran DAS player Chad Muse continued to show he can hang with the Hypertappers in his match against Sodium. After Sodium won Game 1, he got into a high longbar dependency shortly after the transition in the middle of Game 2, and after 2 square misdrops in a drought, he topped out at 559,000. Needing just one Tetris to win, Chad went all in after getting Tetris ready, not burning any lines to avoid blocking the well, and was rewarded just in time with a Tetris to stay alive in the tournament and force a decider. Even with Sodium regaining his form in Game 3, Chad managed to stay within 100,000 points until his board unraveled with alternating wells on level 26, topping out with 645,000 and sending Sodium to the semifinals. And finally, Chris Bidwell and I commentated Blank vs. Ruins, the live competitive debut of the rolling playstyle. For those who follow the scene, of course, rolling is commonplace to see nowadays as it's used by nearly all the top players, but less than 1 year ago, it was a huge deal to see anyone doing it at all. The broadcast was using one webcam mirrored for both players, so we tried to position it to be able to see Ruin's hands rolling and ended up duplicating his hands across both sides.
You get double roll. It's like insert some toilet paper joke here.
As the playstyle was still young, it hadn't been completely perfected yet, and as is also characteristic of new rollers nowadays, Ruins was experiencing quite a few random misdrops. But his piece mobility allowed him to dig out of unprecedented heights and situations, and despite falling behind early, he stormed back into the lead after the transition. Blank on the edge of death, going for it, going for the Tetris. Gonna have to burn at some point. Oh no! The longbar doesn't come in time. It's gonna take a miracle to survive, and Blank is done at 687. At 732, Ruins wins Game 1. However, misdrops would eventually catch up with Ruins as they cascaded in Game 2. Ruins is in trouble.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, and some critical misdrops
Yep,
for
that's
Ruins.
going to be it.
Yeah.
Blank is going to take Game 2.
In a decisive Game 3, both Ruins and Blank played exceptionally well, but Blank had a 2 Tetris lead going into the final levels, and Ruins set up for an aggressive dirty Tetris. Ruins
Give
wants
him
a
the
Tetris.
freaking line. There he is. Got it, but he's in trouble still. 849, he's down 2 Tetrises. And Blank has been rolled.
Oh, no, Ruins. Oh, and he gets the longbar over.
My God.
He needs a longbar now. Gets it! And oh my gosh.
Gets something over, but he's at 28. Like, even if he burns us down, it's...
And Blank almost... And Blank misses the final Tetris!
Wow, Blank. God, I missed this.
Ruins was eliminated, but he had shown a glimmer of the future of what was to come in the scene with his unbelievable moments of survival that had blown Chris Bidwell and I away. Blank moved on to become the final member of the semifinals. The semifinals were supposed to happen on the main stage, but there were yet again more Game Genie issues with the setups, so we started things off with Sodium versus Blank again on the makeshift stream. In Game 1, Blank went on an absolute tear and got 1,090,000, which was actually the official in-person competition record at the time, leading Sodium to say, by the middle of Game 2, the rest of the convention hall was beginning to close down. Blank with some crazy survival during this vendor announcement.
Break that Quaid curse. There we go. Well done, players.
Blank would enter the kill screen just a few thousand points behind Sodium. Here we go. First kill screen run of the day.
Oh no!
And Sodium wins!
This is a great match.
3, 2, 1, Tetris.
Sodium would build a huge lead in Game 3, requiring Blank to be aggressive, and it ended up not working out.
And that's going to do it. Sodium
Sodium
had to fight
advances.
for his life to make it to the finals.
All right, I think we're going over to the main stage on the stream.
All right, we're going to shut the stream down. We're going to pick us up on the other semifinal.
Unfortunately, there were still more technical delays on the main stage that needed to be sorted out. Una had nabbed a seat in the front row of the audience, and Storm and Norman passed the time by trying to hyper tap on top of his head. The final technical issue was one of the setups not having the sound come through, but after all the setbacks, we decided to just finally get the show going. Coffee and Superminds had played their first 2 games off stream and were tied with 1 game apiece, meaning the first broadcast game was a decider. But it was over almost as soon as it began, as Superminds got into a high dig.
Taking every burn he can get. Tops out and Coffee has taken the decider.
At long last, it was time for the finals, fittingly between the top 2 seeds. All the other convention attendees and vendors had left, with the Tetris crowd being the only people still in the main hall.
Let's give these guys a hand. They need a whole lot of-
2, 1, Tetris!
Look at them going back and forth, just talking already. It's just like when they're on Discord when they're playing online at home.
Yeah, the Discord VC. It's where all the magic happens.
Sodium and Coffee were memeing with each other throughout the first game, at one point even flashing their next boxes on and off, which seemed to cause Sodium to misdrop a long bar for the Tetris.
Sodium in a bit of trouble.
Unfortunately, the missed Tetris festered into an extremely difficult dig.
We are neck and neck, 125 each. Neck and neck.
Oh my gosh, Sodium is not getting the square. Ah, and misdrops the T. And Coffee is taking game 1.
In game 2, Sodium and Coffee called a truce on the memeing, with Sodium saying library and Coffee responding yup. Sodium still opted for the trendy moves though, pulling off a textbook VITS, or vertical eye-tuck setup. By the transition, Sodium had built over a 100,000 point lead, and Coffee got stuck in a dig after a delayed burn that wouldn't resolve.
Line piece now.
Oh, and misses the pole vault. And Sodium is ahead and takes game 2.
Guess what?
We have a decider.
It all came down to a winner-takes-all Game 3, not just for a free entry into the World Championships, but an additional $250 cash prize. Sodium continued with the perfect meme moves, executing a flawless adjustment known as 5 and below.
Ooh. Did he know that was coming?
Both players were on max out pace past the transition, and Sodium had a small lead but ran into an S-burst.
Sodium going aggressive.
Look at that spire.
Cannot fill out the center.
Sodium's board was ravaged for several levels, and he was unable to score consistent Tetrises while Coffee took the lead. If Coffee just stayed clean and coasted, he would have the victory in the bag, but he got into an extended delayed burn and missed getting a square all the way over to the left. Suddenly, Coffee's game was just about over, and Sodium was just a Tetris and a half behind.
Coffee's about to top out. It's all to what Sodium can do on the kill screen.
Let's go. 942 needs 950. He needs 950.
Oh my gosh!
He's
Look at the T-spin!
7,000 point difference.
And Coffee is your winner of the South Carolina qualifier.
Sodium and Coffee were congratulated by their peers as Adam Cornelius wrote down their scores to make the results official. Coffee was handed his $250 cash prize, and Coffee and Sodium received their gold and silver medals. Chris Bidwell didn't want second place to leave without a cash prize, so he personally gave $50 to Sodium, enough to cover a World Championships entry fee as well. Then it was time to pose for photos.
Can we get one of choking Coffee?
I'm not gonna choke him, Mom.
After we took a few group shots, it was time to head out, but the day was far from over. Chris Bidwell lugged out his Tetris tournament in a box, and we met up for dinner at a great Mexican restaurant that was ironically named Corona. Una's flip phone ended up being the highlight of the dinner as she passed it around for people to try the NES Tetris emulator she had installed on it. After that, we went over to the lobby of the hotel Chris Bidwell was staying at, and he finally unloaded his PAL NESs, which ran on European frame rates that most of the North Americans had never played on before. Sodium and Coffee took advantage of being together in person to have their first experience on PAL be a mind meld game, where Coffee controlled the side-to-side movement and Sodium controlled the flips.
Is this how my order already? Why is that so fast? It's already one record.
have to get used to this dad.
That was a theoretical Zuko and no movement. Oh, that's such a weird champion.
We tried to honor as much as possible the hallmarks of Pal Tetris commentary.
Tetris. Blank, what is it specifically about the foot that helps you?
So like the ankle, like there's like this is a really hard surface that I can tap on. Like most people use their knee, but that's really awkward for me. Like the ankle is just a lot easier for me.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Ruins was unable to attend the after party, so we were left on our own to figure out how to roll properly.
Blank, we need your review of
Yeah,
this.
Blank, you gotta watch this.
What do you think? I think Tega does that.
Really?
He actually rolls like this.
But does he hold it in his toes?
Look, I'm gripping the controller with my toes. Because then I don't have to hold it with these, and then I can tap like this.
Hanging out in the hotel lobby was so much fun, and honestly one of the biggest highlights of the weekend. One of the final things we had fun with, again taking advantage of being together in person, was playing with the Game Genie code that allows you to access the unfinished 2-player mode in NES Tetris.
Give me the ball, give me the ball.
Oh!
Dennis, no! I can
The next day, Una and I finally explored the rest of the convention, as we had spent the whole previous day in the Tetris section, and there were an impressive amount of sellers. Even the US military was there trying to recruit people through video games. But in the end, we couldn't escape Tetris, and both ended up trying out Tetris on an original 1983 Apple computer. I rounded out the day by practicing Dr. Mario with Chris Bidwell in preparation for the Dr. Mario World Championships that were coming up quickly, and the next day we drove back home to Pennsylvania. But our Tetris journey for the year was far from over. Shortly afterwards, we traveled to New York to attend the Blank's Garage qualifier, which had served as a replacement for the canceled East Coast qualifier. And that's going to be the next vlog, but it's also going to be the next in-person Tetris qualifier I'm attending, as this year Blank has upgraded the venue to be at the Contender Esports Gaming Center in Wappingers Falls, New York, and it is now officially the new East Coast qualifier. The tentative list of attendees is pretty star-studded, so if you're interested in attending, it's on July 2nd, 2022, and I'll have some links and information in the description. And if you're near Greenville, South Carolina and want to attend the Southern qualifier this year, it was just confirmed to be happening again this year at the Southeast Game Exchange on July 9th and 10th, 2022. Again, I'll also have links in the description. Thanks for watching, and if you want to watch my previous in-person Tetris vlog where I traveled to the Stu York City meetup, you can click right on screen to watch it.